I just finished From Blood and Ash, and I ran it through Copilot and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed their relationship and I liked Hawk. I set it down and immediately wanted to pick up the second one, so I think that speaks to my enjoyment level of the book. Complaints are that it was not really anything original. It didn't feel new. It felt readable and it felt interesting, but it didn't feel like something I've never read before. The world building was a little info dumpy rather than clear, if that makes sense. I felt like we weren't getting a clear picture of the society, and like, I get part of the reason why for the majority of the book we didn't know, but even then it was a little confusing. The info dump in the very beginning about how the world works and how the kingdom works, and then it's explained a little bit more towards the end. It's all just a lot, and I don't necessarily know if the way that it was explained was the best way to explain it, but by the end I understood what was happening. That was From Blood and Ash, and I'm excited to pick up the second one. Hey friends, so welcome to my A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire vlog. I guess the point of this vlog is to tell you whether I think the Kingdom of Blood and Ash series is worth it. As you saw from the first clip of this video, I gave the first book of the series From Blood and Ash 4 out of 5 stars. So I will be going into mild spoilers in this, but I will be spoiling From Blood and Ash right now because we need to talk about what happened at the end of the book to lead into the second. If you have not read From Blood and Ash yet, I would recommend that you come back when you have read From Blood and Ash. So at the end, we got some more understanding of the world. So the real history is a little bit fuzzy because we kind of got it through a lot of info dumping, but I will try my very best to make it as clear as possible. So a long time ago, there was a kingdom and they were called the Atlanteans. The king and queen had kids and they drank the blood of other Atlanteans. They didn't drink the blood of humans. They originally had the ascension process where they were drinking the blood of each other. There was a sect of Atlanteans that sullied the ascension process and started using humans and ultimately creating the Craven. And when this sect of Atlanteans went against the king and queen were slaughtered, and the only remaining Atlantean regency rulers were Prince Castile, who is Hawk, and his brother, who we found out in the end of the book is now with the Macedonians. So she is in this kingdom of dissenters from Macedonia who essentially want her dead because she is very important to Macedonian kingdom or whatever. At the end of the book, the very last line is Prince Castile basically saying that Poppy and him are going to get married. And we also find out that Poppy is a Atlantean, or half Atlantean at least. And that is kind of where we leave off. I have barely just started, so I will update you guys as things are developing, but at the 25% mark. I'm gonna try to do 25, 50, 75, 100, then we will wrap it all up and I will let you guys know if I feel like, if you have read From Blood and Ash, if continuing this series is worth it, and then I will do a follow-up video in April when the third one comes out. That is where we are at, and I hope you are in for possibly a good time because I possibly am. We'll see how this goes. I will check back in a little bit. So I know I said I wasn't gonna update you until like the 20% mark, but some stuff with the plot has kind of been a little bit more explained than when I told you guys about it in my synopsis or recap or whatever. These things might have already been talked about. Maybe I'm just a dumb bitch, just like Poppy, and I don't remember. The Ascended are the ones that rebelled against the Atlanteans. That is the name of the vampire type. I was calling them Macedonians. That's like the name of the city that Poppy was staying in, like where the palace that she was in the first book was. But that's not like the name of all of them. Okay, so to ascend in the like ascension ceremony, you have to drink the blood of Atlantean. Castiel's brother, whose name is Malik, is the one that the Ascended have. And then once you have ascended, you drink human blood and that is what the rite ritual, where they take the sons and daughters of like the second sons and daughters and they give them to the church. That's what they use them for. So they have to drink the blood of an Atlantean to ascend, and then they drink human blood from there on out. Basically what happened was the Ascended rebelled against the Atlanteans, and they took land from the Atlanteans' kingdom and like built their own kingdom. So the Atlanteans are slowly losing land more and more. There are dissenters, who are the people from the Ascended group that don't like the way that the Ascended run things. So they have dissented to Atlanteans' way of life. And then there is the Atlanteans. I don't know how many of those are left, but it seems like the king and queen aren't dead, which I thought they were. I'm not sure if that was ever revealed to us or we're just finding that out now, but for some reason I thought part of, like, I never remember him telling her that his parents were alive. In the 10%, we have been introduced to this guy named Alistair, who is the ambassador, or what was he? Advisor to the king and queen. So Castile's parents, the Atlantean king and queen, which I thought they were dead. I don't ever remember it being revealed that they're not, but there's that. Also, there's like electricity, which just seems out of place in this whole world. Like, it's a fantasy world, so the author can really do whatever they want, but it just seems odd that it would have it, I guess. Also, the plan for getting married was out of left field because Castile was supposed to be using Poppy as like a bargaining chip to get his brother back, and I forgot that Castile killed the Duke in the first one. That's not like super important, but I just forgot that that was like a thing. And it's becoming more and more apparent that the Ascended like can't control their bloodlust. So all of the murders that we were getting in the first one, they kind of are attributing to Ascended that have kind of like are not just eating or feeding how they're supposed to, and they're blaming it on Atlanteans or the Craven when it doesn't really seem to be the case. Okay, so that's kind of like the updates for what I was incorrect about. Some things that are bothering me just within like the 10%. So Poppy tries to run. I mean, she's being held captive. And so she kind of brings up a lot that like she's not free no matter where she goes. If she goes back to be with the Ascended, she's gonna be held captive, and now Castile is holding her captive, so it doesn't really matter where she is. She's not free no matter where she goes. But she runs away, and like she says her plan is to go back to Kingdom of the Ascended, or wherever the Ascended are, to get her brother and then leave and run away, which just seems weird because like she has never given any indication that she like gives a fuck about her brother. I forgot she had a brother, except there's like a couple scenes where like she finds out about who, like what the Ascended did and like how they feed off of children. She's like, oh, I hope my brother is not that way. Like, I wonder if my brother knows. That's not something that he would do. Like, he would not be okay with that. So I completely forgot she even had a brother, and then all of a sudden she like wants to rescue him. I guess it gives her a reason to go back to the Ascended, like the place the Ascended people are, because she has to go get her brother. So like that's kind of like a back and forth where she has to go back to the city because even though it's dangerous, she has to go rescue her brother. But it just seems odd. And we kind of have lost some of that like sexier, like glossier edge that we had in the first one, where it was just kind of all fun and games, and it's definitely a different tone. I'm not hating it by any means. It's just very different tonally, and it's quick to pick up. Like in 10%, it was very easy to pick up on the tone shift. So that was a long, rambly clip for 10% of the book, but those are updates I have. I'm probably going to come back at the 25% unless something else happens, but we will talk then.
I didn't mention this in my last clip, but I am 16% of the way through, and there is definitely something going on with Kyrian. I don't know if it's going to be like a three-way, a poly, a love triangle, or what, but he has been assigned to be one of her guards, and we know how much she loves her guards.
Quite frankly, nothing has happened, but I'm at the 25% mark of a kingdom of flesh and fire. And not a whole lot has happened. We did find out a little bit more about like the world, because we just continue to build. So the ascended city slash kingdom is called Solus, which we knew already, but I just forgot. And we found out that, well, we think that the ascended are protecting Poppy to later use her as a feeder to the hostage Atlantean that they use to turn people or ascend people. We also found out that there are things, they're like more pure Atlanteans, which is like the original bloodline that were created by the gods. Like they're called there's like different bloodlines, but if the purest bloodline were to like show up, then they would overthrow whoever is currently on the throne. So my assumption is that Poppy is going to be from that like purest bloodline. I believe if you are from one of those like pure bloodlines, you have gold eyes, which Castile does. But they make mention several times of like Poppy's eyes, so something's going on there. And we also found out that there are changelings who are offsprings of Wolven and like the deities, the original bloodline that the gods created, and they can shapeshift. And other than that, that's really all that's been going on. Castile just brought up his engagement to Poppy, and Poppy has like a fang obsession. Every time she sees Castile's fangs, she's like tingling. So other than that, we've kind of just been getting some like growing tension between them. Poppy's been locked up, been complaining about it, been arguing with everybody. So that's pretty much where we are with that. I hope you haven't been able to hear my TV in the background this whole time. I just realized that it's still on. That is the 25% mark update, and we will talk at the 50% mark. I am now 50% of the way through, and a lot has happened while simultaneously nothing is happening. We have found out some stuff about the world a little bit more. So there are dragons, centaurs, merfolk, a whole plethora of magical creatures. Also, the plan is to marry, we found this earlier, I just didn't like put it in the update, but the plan is to marry Castile and Poppy, so that the Ascended don't really have a choice but to listen to what the Atlanteans want, because they have told their people that Atlanteans are cursed, and if they even interact with an Atlantean in any way, they will turn. So they will use Poppy as like a way to say like, look, you've been lying, what else are you lying about? To make them admit to what the Atlanteans want. So they want more land, Prince Malik back, and they also want the Ascended to control themselves. Castile is like, they can control themselves, they just have never had to, so that's why they do whatever they want. We stan Alistair. He is basically like Victor from the first book. We love him. He's great. He's also the leader of the Wolven, I think. Speaking of bonds, I think that Delano, who is a Wolven, is going to bond with Poppy, just because like every fight scene that they have been in so far, he's like there by her side protecting her. So I think something's gonna go there. And we also found out that one of the bloodlines that we were talking about, there was like a thing as empath warriors, who they were like the strongest bloodline, and they could manipulate people's emotions. And so whatever emotion the empath wanted them to feel, they could like force that feeling on people. So they were like the strongest bloodline, which is what, of course, they think Poppy is, because why wouldn't she be the strongest ever? So what happened was, they were in that town that they've been staying in, that she was originally like kidnapped or whatever, the town full of like the dissenters. And they were waiting the storm out, and an ascended nobleman or whatever showed up with a bunch of guards to kind of find Poppy, and he like started killing people. So a war started, and then a little boy was going to be killed by the dude, the Ascended, because he said like, if you don't give us Poppy, we're gonna kill the little boy. So Poppy gave herself up to save the little boy, and the ascended noble guy took her in a carriage, like kidnapped her, and in the carriage he bit her on her like arm or something like that, and she killed him. Well, she like incapacitated him, and then, you know, Castile and all of them came and like took the carriage down and all that. And then like once she was healed from all of her injuries, they allowed her to, they like kept him locked up in the dungeon, and they allowed her to kill him, which was super unsatisfying. Like the scene where she kills the Lord in the first one because he's a fucking creep, she like goes ham. But this one was just so unsatisfying. It was just like, she literally just went up and stabbed him, and that was it. And in the spot that Poppy got attacked, in that town, a blood tree popped up, and a blood tree is like literally exactly what it sounds like. It drips blood, and they think that it is an omen from the gods, basically saying like things are about to change, and they don't know whether that is like about Poppy and Castile's marriage or what, but the gods have been asleep for a really long time, and so this is like the first time they've communicated with anyone in like hundreds of years. So that's interesting. The scene that we left off on, Castile and Poppy were asleep, and Poppy like wakes up and they're like cuddling or whatever, and she's like, oh, I'm Randy. And so she starts like rubbing on him, and he gets scared and he like pounces on her, and his eyes are all black like the Ascended are, and he like tries that honeydew, which is what he says she tastes like honeydew, so he calls her honeydew. So he's eating that honeydew, then she like screams, and Kyrian bursts in, and Castile, like his eyes are still all black. He whips around and is like about to take Kyrian's head off. So Poppy uses her pain ability, like her numbing ability, to get him to come back to himself, and he like realizes what he's done and he leaves. And that's kind of where we left off. The problem that I'm having with this book, like it's really readable and I'm enjoying it, but it's just a lot. It's a lot of like random facts about the world and like random history and like just a bunch of info that just is not being explained very well, to the point where I'm forgetting details about the plot. And so things will happen and I'll be like, oh, like I forgot that they never left this town, this dissenter town. And so like random things will pop up and I'll be like, oh, I forgot that even like central parts of the plot that has been going on for hundreds of pages, I'll forget that it was even a thing, because we're being so loaded down with information about the world and all these different bloodlines and all these different creatures, and it just feels like really unnecessary. And I feel like it could have either been left out, honestly it could have been left out, or it could be introduced to us in a better way, because it's just really bogging down the plot and nothing has happened. Like they literally have not left this town. She's tried to escape, they got attacked, that's it. And I'm on page 284, and only within like the last, I would say 50 pages, they actually left the town, and now they're going on their way to the Atlantean capital, which is what we knew they were going to do from the beginning. But why has it taken 250 pages for us to leave this town? I don't know if it's so that Poppy can kind of get more understanding of like the dissenters and the Atlanteans, because she does get taken to, she like is in an argument with Castile, and she's like, you're no better than the Atlanteans, in reference to like keeping her captive. And so he takes her to like this underground tomb where there's just like thousands of names of people, like kids and people that have been killed by the Ascended, and all of that. So I guess it's kind of to ground her in the Atlantean world and get her used to like that side of things, and kind of like get her to understand, get her to sympathize with the Atlanteans, because previous to this she spent her whole life believing they were bad. So I kind of get part of it, but I don't get why it was so long, considering we're going to the Atlantean city. She's going to be surrounded by Atlanteans. I don't know, it feels like a lot of information and not a lot of plot, and so much information that the plot is like becoming less prevalent, because my mind is like trying to hold all of this information that we're getting, and it's just, it really feels unnecessary. I'm not hating it, like I'm still reading it, but it definitely has lost a lot of like the fun that the first one did, and we have just really been relying on like the tension between Castile and Poppy to like keep your attention and like keep you focused on the book, because not really much has happened. We've had one scene where he was like giving her the digits, but that was pretty much it. Everything else has been like tension and arguments. I'm gonna go back to reading and we'll talk of this at the 75% mark, but this is definitely not as exciting as the first one was. Again, I'm not hating it. It's readable, it's compulsively readable, it's easy to just devour, it's like popcorn, but it's not anything kind of like the first one. It's not anything like super original, and I think all of the like info dumping was an attempt to make it new and interesting and original, and it's just not coming across that way. So we will talk at the 75% mark, but that is kind of how I'm feeling about the first half. So
one thing I forgot to mention is we get told by Alistair that Castile was once engaged to Alistair's daughter named Shay, and something happened to her. I think she died or something like that. And I absolutely love that Poppy doesn't feel any jealousy towards the girl. She understands that Shay was very important to Castile, and she shares in Castile's grief that whatever happened to her happened. And I love that she recognizes and appreciates that love without being jealous or having any of those like feelings towards it. I really appreciate that. Okay friends, we are at the end of our road because I have finished A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I was fully intending on updating you guys at the 75% mark, but unfortunately nothing was happening, which I think is a little indicative of what is wrong with this book. So I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars, mostly because nothing happened, honestly. So let's start with the things that I did like, because the list is going to be far smaller than the things that I didn't like. So I really liked the exploration of Castile's character in this one. I think that we got way more of like his true personality in this. From Blood and Ash, he was just very much like this goofy, arrogant, fun-loving guy who didn't take anything too seriously. And in this one, we saw a lot more of the faces that he wears, and him being more princely, and him taking charge. And it's very different than the Hawk we saw in the first book. So I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed some of the side characters and a little bit of the backstory or the history of this world that we got. But unfortunately, the history is the downfall of this. JLA really tried to make this inventive and new when she ended up just taking a bunch of backstory and history of this world and bogging down the story. The focus of this book was mostly plot-wise in one town, and that's it. We didn't leave this town for the majority of the book. Unfortunately, there also wasn't a lot of character growth aside from Castile, which I didn't even really feel like he grew. The book really focuses on Poppy's back and forth of her relationship with Castile, and for some weird reason, JLA decided to like really hone in on this like weird desire to save him, which she never really cared about before. I think the thing that really makes this bad, quite frankly, is that you're getting a bunch of world building that doesn't matter. That's completely irrelevant. That just wasn't in the end needed, and you are getting all of it through info dumping, through monologues and long conversations and things like that. And when you get to the very end of the book, which I'll do a spoiler section in a minute, it's all irrelevant. So you wasted 600 pages to build the world and give us all of this new and innovative ideas, which are not new and innovative. For what? For what? That's really what I feel like about this book, is like perfectly sums up this book. For what? Like, we didn't get anything from this. The problem that I had was that I think my brain was trying to justify the fact that there was no plot by kind of
thinking that maybe we were taking this opportunity to, you know, get Poppy sympathetic with the Atlanteans, get the Atlanteans kind of on board with her, and kind of build some sort of relationship to go off of. And quite frankly, the ending just completely destroyed any of the work we did there. That was the two issues that I had with this were we weren't getting any plot, and the world building was absolutely atrocious and unnecessary. And to counteract that, we weren't getting any character growth. So while I felt like she was really trying to focus on Poppy's character and shedding this like maiden persona, she didn't work that hard to do it, because we weren't seeing this great, amazing character arc in any way. I mean, I know I made this comparison in the first time I read the book, but people really like to compare this to like Sarah J. Maas in the way that it's written, and I agree. But if we compare this book to, what is the second one? A Court of Mist and Fury, there is so much time spent on Feyre growing and getting past the things that she's dealing with and becoming more herself and getting through some of the trauma that she experienced. And so the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of plot was acceptable, because we are seeing so much character growth, so much growth in the relationships that she is in herself, and in addition to that, we're getting her more acclimated and sympathetic to the Night Court, whereas this was just an attempt to do something similar that just completely failed. It didn't work at all, because I didn't care about Poppy, quite frankly. Everything about her personality in book 2, we already knew from book 1. She wasn't overcoming anything. She was just complaining the entire time. And quite frankly, we were having the same conversations over and over again. There was always this, every single time Poppy and Castile interacted, there was some sort of joke about her stabbing him and him saying it was hot. And then she'd be like, there's something seriously wrong with you. Every single interaction, every single conversation that we had between them involved that joke. Every single time. And it quickly became old. You're trying to grow their relationship. You're trying to make me believe that they are going to be king and queen and that they are going to rule this world and they are going to be fit and that I want them to be together. But for why? Like, why? Their relationship is nothing. You haven't built any sort of like understanding between them. You haven't really made me understand why they would work together, besides the fact that I get that they like to kill people. That's it. That's the only kind of character work and building of their relationship that you've done. And it's, why did I read 600 pages for that? I'm going to get into a spoiler section. So if you, for some reason, still want to read this book after watching this clip, because I'm going to get into spoilers. If you still want to read it, but you don't really care about spoilers, then keep watching. Or you just want to hear me rant some more. But the ending, let me take a drink. So at the end of the book, 2 things irritated me. And we're going to talk about the less irritating one first. So their accumulation of the plot has brought the Ascended to the like town that Poppy and Castile and all of them are staying in. The Ascended are attacking to get Poppy back, basically. And Castile, prior to this, when Poppy was like, I am in love with him, like having her in love moment, kind of her realization, one of the things that she says is like, he never tried to make me safe. He never tried to hide me away. He understood that I was going to be in the fight and that I was going to fight along everybody else. I wasn't just going to be locked up in a room. I was my own person and I was going to, you know, be in the fight if I wanted to be in the fight. And then the people are coming and he is like, I want you to leave. Like, you need to leave. I don't want you here. I want you safe. Which is just a complete contradiction to what she said that made them, like, glue. What made them work was the fact that he supposedly understood her and didn't treat her like the maiden and understood that she was going to be involved in a fight. And then he turns around and tells her that she needs to leave. Which, I mean, obviously she doesn't. She's involved in the fight. But all of that, like, for what? Why did you do that? Did you do it so that they could later have a conflict and later have a fight? Because that's annoying. That is out of character for him. If the whole entire reason that you're telling me that they work is because he understands that she's going to be in a fight, then why would you then make him not want her to be in that fight? That doesn't make sense. That's going against exactly what you wrote your character to do. So that was annoying. And then lastly, she spent the entire book giving us this asinine, irrelevant information about bloodlines and deities and all that kind of stuff, and how there's 1,000 different bloodlines and they've all died off. And it just I'm gonna spoil it right here in case you haven't figured it out. Poppy is the most OP of everyone, because why wouldn't she be? So in the very end, she kills a bunch of people, and then they're like, oh, she's a deity, she's the last remaining deity, which is the people that the gods like made or whatever, and then everybody else is just like a spawn of the deities. And so they're like, that's the last remaining deity, bow at her feet, like she's our queen now. So we spent 600 pages building her relationship and making these people sympathetic to her, and then you wiped it away. You made it irrelevant because you made her a thing that they're going to worship anyways. Why did you spend 600 pages making me read scenes where she's healing people and she's feeling people's fear and all of these people are hating her and they're arguing about her? And why did you make me read that if you're gonna make them worship her anyways? What was the point? Why did I waste my time reading all of that? Because it's not like all of the healing and all of the work that she put in to make them love her made them love her. They didn't. They still feared her. They still didn't like her. They still didn't accept her. So then you force them to accept her through this asinine plot line of her being a deity. So all of the work that you did for the last 600 pages was completely irrelevant. So why did I read the book? It was the single most useless second book I have ever read. And I am very angry that I wasted my time. But we have a video. So leave your comments down below on your thoughts of this book. Did you read it? Please let me know what you thought. Maybe, I don't know. Just let me know. And the ending, it pissed me off. It made a lot of people happy, and a lot of people loved it and wanted to read the third one because of it, but it just really made me angry. And your thoughts on my ranting. I'm sorry if I hurt anyone's feelings. I am not here to bash this series or JLA. I am a huge proponent of reading what you like and enjoying what you like, but I'm not gonna not share my opinions just because something is hyped. I'm not hating by any means, and I'm not just hating because it is hyped. I genuinely liked the first one, and all of the issues that I had in the first one were just exacerbated by this one. So, to answer the question of should you read A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, I would say if you absolutely adored From Blood and Ash, you thought it was the best thing you read all year, it was absolute perfection to you, I would say yes. If for some reason this argument has not pissed you off enough that you haven't left, I would say yes, absolutely check it out. But if you had issues with the first one, they just are exacerbated in this one, so I would say no. If you loved the first one, check it out. If you didn't absolutely think the first one was perfection, then I would say go ahead and skip this one. I will probably be reading the third one just to see if this dumpster fire gets any better. That's gonna be it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will catch you guys in my next one. Thanks so much for watching.